Annyeong, it's Mikey here. Today, I got a not keyboard video, but a mouse video. Thank you again, Meglance, for sending me out the Aula SC800. This is an incredibly budget mouse, gaming mouse, with 8K. So we're gonna have to go straight into unboxing and do the sound test. So let's go right into that, but please make sure to like and subscribe. So starting off with the unboxing of the Aula SC800. Thank you again, Meglance, for sending me out the Aula SC800 as well as the full-size board. Now, the packaging of this mouse is actually quite impressive. It was really well done. I think it is quite nice packaging of everything you're getting. Of course, it's not going to be super premium packaging, but it does feel like it is quite premium in terms of how it was done. You do get a braided cable, and it's actually not a horrible quality cable. It's not actually like feeling super cheap. You get a dongle, you get extra grips, you get extra feet for the mice. This is actually quite impressive when you consider this whole price range of this mouse. And we're going to be going over that later in the video, but this is really cool. Like, this is the dongle, it's supposed to be the 8K receiver, and it is quite large. It's not on the small side, but it's not horribly large either. I think it's just your average wireless dongle. Now, this is the mouse. As you can see here, it is the black version. I think the black version looks super clean. I do have white mice. I personally like a white colored mouse, but they do get dirty over time, so having a black mouse is nice to have. Now, it is super small and it does feel incredibly light in my hands. I think out of all the mice that I've had so far now on this channel, this is probably the lightest one you'll see. And of course, we're gonna have to weigh it here and then do a sound test. And it weighs 38 grams. So we've done the unboxing, we've done the sound test of this mouse, and it is so light. I was quite surprised in terms of the build quality and how light this mouse feels. Sound-wise, it's going to be a little bit on the clickier side, so a little bit louder in terms of your clicks compared to, say, some other mice that are out there, and we'll see that, of course, soon. First of all, we're going to go into taking a look at the gaming, like peripherals, in terms of the gaming software, and checking it out a little bit more with more information of this mouse before we go into a little bit more of a review and comparison with some other mice. So let's go right into that. So going on to Meclan's website, because this is where I was sent this mouse, you see here it's with the PAW 3395 flagship sensor, which is a really decent sensor. It's pretty new. It has decent switches on there, 50 million clicks, and you saw the price, right? It's only $45 right now on sale. That's incredible. This thing is $45 for, you saw the packaging, which felt really premium for what you're paying. And it comes with an 8K dongle. And the thing is, the plastic quality of the mouse itself isn't the highest quality, but it is still very well done. And it's incredibly light, especially for those that are looking for a smaller mouse that is super light. Now, this is using the wireless. And as you see, if I plug it in, it changes. You can see it's charging, and it only has up to 1000 hertz in terms of wired mode. So if you were looking for using it 8K in wired mode, unfortunately you're not able to. It only works with the wireless, which of course we're gonna have to go and take a look a bit later with something that I've noticed. Now, as you can see, shows you like it is Windows mode. It has all these extra features. The software itself is very, very bare minimum. As you can see, it's not like the cleanest software. It's not even like a super, super nice UI. It's just very, very basic. You're not getting a ton of things from it, but it pretty much gets the job done, right? You get your DPI. Really, what more else do you need? Unless you want to set up maybe macros, but other than that, it is just enough for you to set it, do it, and get it done. Now, I'm doing Apex because this is where I like to try out mice. What
is good about Apex in terms of practicing with a mouse is usually the specifics of scroll wheels. So scroll wheel usage is quite important in Apex because there's tap strafing, which requires you to use like the forward momentum and use a scroll wheel. Forward is usually the way that people set it at to change directions very quickly. And something called like RAS strafing and like doing special things with it is used with a mouse wheel. And I think that this mouse wheel is actually quite useful. It felt pretty smooth. I didn't feel like it was rigid. I have had mice that does feel super rigid. This one definitely didn't feel that way. One thing I also felt was that it wasn't, the mouse like middle click wasn't actually too sensitive either. Sometimes I feel with like my Choki mouse that it is a bit too sensitive, which makes me misclick and ping something that I do not want to do. But as you can see here, like with the mouse wheel with the tap strafing, it works really well with this scroll wheel. And honestly, the one thing that I really love about mice is I get to try so many different ones lately, and this one is the lightest one I've tried. This Aula one is quite impressive. See here, I was trying to see how sensitive that click was for middle click. Even when I'm doing this triple rope jump, it didn't have any issues where I misclick. The Choki, on the other hand, I actually do. And you have to consider the Choki's double the price of this mouse. Now, I'm going to show you guys how recoil control is like with this mouse. So R99, recoil control, if you don't do anything, just go straight up. It's not too hard to recoil control with this thing. Because of how light the mouse is, you do a little bit more like small micro adjustments. Because you don't want to make too big movements. So if you are someone who likes to maybe use a little bit more on the sensitive side, especially if you're like more of a high sense player, this kind of mouse would probably work better for you. If you aren't a high sense player, then of course it's going to be a little bit different. But again, it depends on person. This is me trying to practice recoil control in Valorant. Well, not really practice because I don't play Valorant, but the mouse isn't too difficult to make the adjustments that I need to. As you can see, the spread in terms of how the shots are going around, I'm trying my best to keep it in the middle, and the mouse wasn't too bad in terms of being able to do so. Now, I am trying my best to keep it in the middle, but of course recoil control is definitely difficult. You can see how badly it spreads around, and I'm just trying to make the adjustments as I see it on screen. And for specifically the Vandal, it just was a lot harder to control the spread with this mouse. I'm gonna have to obviously make a lot more adjustments, but one thing I noticed specifically with like a lighter mouse is when it comes to those smaller adjustments, it is a little bit more difficult to really keep that control, and it will take more practice and getting used to it, because I don't use these mice like for long periods of time, like say months, only like a week or two. It's harder to get used to. Now, I do like to use Aim Labs because this is kind of where I can see how it is like to use the mouse. So as you can see here, this is trying to make the quick adjustments to, shoot as many of the targets as possible in a fast period of time. And because it's a grid shot, that means that it doesn't require me to flick too far off. And it shows you how to control like the micro movements. Now, as you can see here with the micro movements, I am quite off a lot of the times compared to what I'm thinking I should be moving. And this is just, again, a part of getting used to a mouse. A light mouse, as I was mentioning, it is going to be a little bit more like difficult to have the accurate of a smaller movement than say a heavier mouse, because it is light, right? Yeah, it's like playing on high sense, where high sense, the smallest movement makes the biggest in the screen. Now, this is me with my Choki mouse, and you can see here, it's a little bit easier. The Choki mouse actually is a little bit heavier compared to this Aula SC800, and I feel like my accuracy with this one in terms of grid shot is a little bit better. As you can see, like the micro adjustments is going to be a bit easier with this mouse for myself, just due to the fact that it is a little bit heavier. It's a little bit more towards what I am used to, because I did use the Glacier for the longest time. And obviously we'll see at the end of it with the points, like how many points I'm getting with this. The Glacier is a nice mouse. I personally prefer it in terms of comfortability too, but the SC800 in my hands was quite comfortable. I have smaller hands, and later on I'll show you guys more of the measurements of the mouse and my palm, so you can kind of get an idea what you're looking at. But as you can see here, like the Glacier mouse, definitely a good mouse, honestly. It's one of my favorite mice, the design wise as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful mouse. Now, as you can see with the high score, I actually beat my previous score. Now, this is a flick shot So it's going to be controlling how quickly I can flick to a target and how accurately I can do it. So with the SC800, when it comes to a little bit of the further targets, I think it was a little bit easier compared to say Grid Shot, just because that means I don't have to move as much to get further. Again, this is just comes down to high sense versus low sense feeling, because a lighter mouse, pretty much the way you should think about it is when you get a mouse that is lighter than your current mouse, you're most likely going to have to reduce the sensitivity on the mouse, or specifically in game. And the reason for that is because it's going to be definitely like feeling a huge margin in terms of what you were used to moving and what you actually have to move, specifically the speed too, because if you move at the same speed that you were previous mouse that was heavier, then obviously your movement is going to go even further. Now, I think this mouse does work quite well, though it didn't really get close to my high score at all. This is the Chilkey Glacier, which let me show you guys a little bit more towards the results of this one. I just don't want to have to bore you guys through the whole thing. So as you can see here, at the end of it, it is still a higher score than with the SC800, and it's just because I feel the weight for the Glacier is just a little bit more accurate for me. Now this is the Valerant tracking, and as you can see, it looks like a Valorant map. This is where I can actually tell to see how easy is it to track a target, and specifically because I play Apex, tracking is quite important, not just horizontally but vertically, but this one is just a horizontal tracking test. And one thing I've noticed was tracking with this mouse wasn't too difficult. I have bad time tracking. I'm not a very good tracking player, but with this mouse, tracking wise, it was actually not too hard, even though you can see my accuracy is so bad. But that's actually around my average. With every different mouse that I tried, it's actually sitting around the similar average. And I was trying to get used to it, and I felt like it wasn't too difficult to get used to with this one. How light it felt a little bit lighter on my arms to be able to do so. So definitely not too bad. And of course, I have to go into the Glacier the Glacier mouse, and show you guys the results. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same accuracy, even though it is a little bit heavier mouse. Now, this is my Apex gameplay from me using the mouse, and you can see the mouse I have on the left bottom. Sorry, I actually maybe made it too big, but I really want to show you guys how I was using the mouse and how much I'm moving it around. So one thing I do notice with the light mouse, I am lifting it off the pad quite heavily. It's this constant, move up, down. And as you can see here, like, luckily my teammates helped me, but I almost died in that specific fight. And using the mouse to like choose targeting, shooting, as you can see here, it was quite easy to get used to. There are certain mice that I felt was a little bit harder to get used to in the beginning to use. Like for example, the Aqua Pulse was a little bit harder because it was a little bit on the heavier side. The Ueden S9 at the time too was a little bit more work in terms of getting used to, and that was just cause due to the size of the mouse. The Reproof specific was really, really hard to get used to, and that's just because it was a very large mouse for my hand and required a lot more adjustments. Now, as you can see here, definitely hit my shots there, and I'm feeling like this mouse worked quite well. I was using it a lot for my gaming and ranking up, and even in like a bit of the higher lobbies, this mouse definitely was doing the job that I needed it to do. Like, I had no issues with it. I wasn't feeling like there was any latency or input issues, and the accuracy wise, like me trying to hit targets and make sure that I'm on like shooting properly. Yeah, no issues at all. Like, I definitely think anything that like where I'm missing shots is just my own personal aim issue, where I'm just bad aimer and I'm bad at video games. But as you can see, like, I'm tracking even with hipfire with the mouse and had no issues with it either way. So I definitely think that for the price that you're paying, this is a great mouse, and really you're not going to have a bad time with it. I think they did an amazing job with it, though tracking is definitely, as I said, my weak point. So you can see how bad I'm doing that. Though when it comes to clicking and like me making sure like I quickly pick items out of boxes and stuff, it did everything I needed to do right away. And that's what I need in a gaming mouse. Now, this is the design of the mouse. It is a very simple mouse. It is very small. It definitely is using a cheaper plastic, which makes sense when you consider like the price of the mouse itself. Definitely, they aren't using anything like crazy to, cut costs. Obviously, if you're gonna price a mouse at $45, obviously the cost has to be much lower. So as you could heard, it is definitely sounds hollow, and you could hear like the plastic quality. Now the dongle itself is quite large, but it does work really well. And I want to give you guys a little bit more of the measurement. Now, as you can see here, so from the top to the bottom, where your palm would be resting into the bottom of the mouse, you're looking at about 31, 32 millimeters. Now, from the head of the mouse all to the bottom, you're looking at a total of about 113 millimeters. So about 11.3 centimeters. This is what the measurements is going to be for like this mouse. Now, some of you guys might be wondering like how big is that? This is my Logitech G703 as a comparison for you guys from measurement wise, and the G703 from top to bottom is about 42 millimeters, and from the head to the bottom of the mouse you can see that it's sitting at about 122 millimeters. So this should kind of give you an idea if you have a Logitech G703 or a Logitech mouse, you're looking at in terms of the size wise. Now, as you can put it on my palm, see how it just fits right inside the hand, and the grip of the mouse that I can hold in my hand is quite comfortable. I have a smaller hand, and as you can see, I can do like a palm grip, or I can do a claw grip, or I can do more of like a hybrid grip. I'm more of a hybrid grip person, so a smaller mouse really does work better for me. The Logitech G703 definitely feels a lot bigger in my hands, and I can't really do a comfortable grip. I like to move my hands a little bit more forward just to get that hybrid grip, and this type of size mouse actually works very, very well for me for that. Now that's the Glacier. I think the Glacier for myself was like the most comfortable mouse I had, and the SC800 actually really comes a good second. As you can see here, I do like to have a little bit of that gap on top, and this mouse provides that just perfect amount of gap. But you can compare it with my Glacier 8K and even see like there is a size difference. The Glacier 8K is bigger and longer than the SC800, and you can really see like the SC800 is quite small of a mouse. So if you are someone with very large hands, I think you're going to find it a little bit uncomfortable, and you might find it too small. But if you are someone with like a small to medium sized hand, I think you will feel that it is quite comfortable. Now, as you can see here, this is the Echo Pulse 01. So these are the 4 different mice that I'm going to be doing a little bit of the comparisons with. And because these are the ones that I hold the most towards like my favorite to use, and felt that these were really great choices for people to have. Now, the purpose of that clicking for all the mice, is just so that you are able to kind of get an idea of how loud the clicks are going to be, especially if you're someone who wants a mouse that's not too loud. Now, this is a slide. It is quite good in terms of the sliding. As you can see here, it glides really well. Though the top heaviness of like where the click should be, the switches are, you can see it does spin. All right, and the Glacier 8K, I would say, is a little bit more friction. It doesn't slide as well as the SC800, and obviously Pulse 1 really does not slide much. It's actually more on like the much more friction side. I'm personally in the middle. I like having a little bit of sliding, but some friction as well. The G703 is actually like super, super glidey. It's a mouse that really glides a lot, and you can really tell the difference between the two. I would say that the Logitech actually has a lot more gliding to it, and it slides a lot more than the SC800. The SC800 actually you can feel a little bit like it's almost like a grainy feel because of the friction. It has a little bit of that, but it still slides a lot and actually will spin in terms of because of how the weight distribution is. While the G703, you can see it just glides like crazy, and it's quite interesting to see the differences from that and having like the different mice to really see. So it really comes to like your personal preference of what kind of mice you're looking for. And the reason I do the gliding test is because I know that there's certain players that, dependent on the person, the FPS they play, like in Valorant or CS, some people like a little bit more friction for like the braking in terms of like your shots, so that your flicking shots are more accurate and stops right, while some people actually like a little bit more of a gliding mouse for like tracking and such. So even mouse pad, right? So like a mouse pad really also makes that difference for people. And it's just a combination of the two. So I'm just showing you guys like combining it to see like what works. Now, you have to consider, like, out of all these four mice, where this SC800 sits. And the SC800 is a super, super budget mouse, right? The SC800 is sitting at half the price of the Akko and the Glacier, and the Logitech is actually even pricier than the other two. I found the Pulse 1 and the Glacier to be my favorites overall, all mice, but that's just because I love the design of the mice and I love the feel. The SC800 is actually quite comfortable. If I didn't have these other two mice and I was looking to purchase a mouse and I didn't want to spend a ton of money, I would actually be looking at the S800. The Pulse 1 and the Glacier are really great mice, but they are in the, like, they're creeping up to the $100 range, right? They are around the $100 range. So it's not super, super cheap, especially if you compare it to flagships. It is cheaper, but it's not super cheap. The S800 is actually like sitting in the much, much budget range. Like, I'm talking about literally, if you were looking to buy a wireless mouse, even for like your TV computer, it's quite budget. Like, it's around sitting around that type of budget. The SC800 is so much lighter, surprisingly. And when you even saw my Glacier, it's actually like completely hollow on the bottom and you can see it like a skeleton. The SC800 is actually a lot lighter. It's incredible to see how light it is, even though it's completely covered all around. I would have to really say and like really give Aula props for making a mouse that is actually that light and be able to have this kind of quality. One thing I did notice though about the SC800, as I was mentioning, compared to the other mice, is it has the 8K dongle. I don't have a tool to actually measure if it is fully 8K, and Apex Legends tends to bug out on 8K mice. That's why I can't use my Glacier or Pulse 1 at 8K on my Apex, because the DPI bugs out crazy. Like, I'm talking about, like, it'll suddenly go from like 1600 to 3600 to like 600. The S800 didn't have that. So I'm really kind of questioning that. Now, as you guys saw, I was measuring my palm and I measured my fingers. So you can see how like big my hand is, and you can see how big the mouse was, and it gives you a little bit more measurements for that way you can kind of have a little bit of an idea for yourself how big the mice is compared to your hand, and to see if it would fit you. So keep in mind of that thing I mentioned though about the 8K dongle and actually running an 8K. I'm not too sure if it fully is, and it might not be, but I will have the links in the description and you guys should check this out.
Now, I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I know my reviews aren't like super in depth like say some other guys out there in terms of just realistic usage, right? Like, I'm only using this mouse for gaming, and then try and compare it with some other mice and the feel of it. This is an incredibly light mouse that is very small. If you have smaller hands, definitely I think this is going to be a good mouse for you, especially if you're trying to save some money. I think nowadays you don't have to spend the crazy amounts of money on really nice, amazing gaming mice. I've been using a lot more of the budget side mice lately, and like, I used to be one of those guys that use like a Logitech, and just sticking with that. And using, of course, I've tried Razer mice too. This one is definitely super budget, super worth using if you're trying to save money and you still want that nice gaming experience, especially if you have smaller hands like myself. So I'll have the links in the description for you guys. Go take a look at it, and please make sure to like and subscribe and catch the other videos I got.